Today is April 13th, 2015, and this is our weekly 10x Mastermind call. This call happens every single Monday at 11 a.m. Pacific time, and the whole purpose of this call, it's been going on for, what's really cool is this week is our 1-year anniversary. So 1 year ago this week, we started this call, and it's been going every single Monday. Since then, it's grown organically, very little promotion about it, but now we're over 400 people across 10 different countries, and every single week that you show up here, you're going to be able to grab great content, great information, be able to get some live coaching, ask questions. It's really a unique call in that every single week it's different. Every single week we have different people that show up. A lot of people listen to the recording on the podcast channel. And so if you are here on the live call today, pat yourself on the back because you're in for a really, really good treat today. My name is John Pyron, and I founded this group, like I said, over a year ago. And the whole purpose is to be able to provide a way to have a motivational call on Monday to really set the stage for the week. So every single week we have a different theme, and this week's theme is sales. So on the second Monday of every month, we focus the entire call around the topic of sales. And on the call today, we have our guest expert, which is Mr. Grant Terry. Grant, are you there?
Yes, John. Thanks for having me.
All right. So for those of you that don't know Grant Terry, and he's not one to brag on himself, so I'm going to have to do it myself, and I love doing it. And Grant's been in sales for 45 years. He has been a Fortune 500 CEO. He's been the CEO of 5 different companies. He's been a master in sales. He's taught sales. He's built millions and millions and millions of dollars in revenue with different sales teams. So any question that you have about sales, this is the call for you. The format of the call is simply this. We've got some topics that we're going to teach on, and you will always have the opportunity to jump on the call and put your 2 cents in, make comments, ask clarification questions, get some coaching, and you do that by pressing *6. So don't feel like you're interrupting us. We want participation. So if you want to hop on the call at any time, you just press *6 and jump right on into the conversation. And so the topic that you have for us today, Mr. Grant, is the coaching model. And so share with us, okay, what are your thoughts there? Why did you choose this particular topic for today's call?
You know, John, what I was thinking about specifically was whether it's you or I or anyone, we may find ourselves or find our company at a point where we realize, I need to expand my team. I need to, I'm going to have to do some recruiting or bring on some additional assets because I need to expand my bandwidth. In other words, I've been doing this by myself. I'm talking about an entrepreneur who may be a one-person band, or you've got a couple of different positions in your company, but you specifically want to expand your sales team. So that was the means to my madness in posting this today, or what I was thinking about when we began this.
Got it. And so you've been in business and sales for 45 years. So what has been the value of coaches and mentors in the different companies that you built, the different businesses that you built? What's been the value there?
I think it's invaluable in that most of us are lucky enough. Maybe we didn't think about it in this terminology or think about it like this when we were coming up in our careers, but we're often supplied with a lot of mentors. And then the other side of the coin is that as you are going through your career, you have a chance to be a mentor to others and assist them. And I think that this is constantly going on, whether we are actually, cognizant of what's going on around us or thinking about it in those terms. You automatically try to assist somebody, an associate who may be struggling, or somebody took a moment to stop and give you a helping hand in your career. And again, maybe someone is on this call and is going, well, that hasn't happened to me much, or that's not an example. But I would believe that more often than not, one of those two has taken place numerous times in the life of your sales career. Back to you, Jeff.
One of the things that I've learned, it's like I was talking to a lady this morning, right? Give an example why having a mentor, having a coach is so important. And two schools of thought. I have one client that is growing. Their business is growing very, very fast right now. And the biggest reason that I'm working with them one-on-one is really from the accountability standpoint, from the being able to bounce ideas off of someone else. But there's another person that, another type of person, if you will, that I sat down with over a year ago. And all the talent in the world, all the potential in the world, very successful as an attorney, right? Very successful, long track record, long career, and is now starting a new business. And we sat down over a year ago, and there were some things that were going on in this person's life, and she couldn't get going right away. And so we reconnected. Here it is a year later, and we reconnected, and we were talking about, okay, now everything is settled down, and we're ready to get going. And so I'm like, oh, okay. So we went and sat down, and we went over it, and she said, let me think about it a couple of days. And then, again, something has come up, and she's like, well, I need to hold off for a couple of months, right? And here's the only reason I'm telling you this is there are two types of people. There are people that are successful, and there are people that want to be successful. And a lot of times what I have discovered, the difference between those that are successful, and I'm not just talking money, I'm talking in any area of life, those people that are successful and those people that are wanting to be successful, there's one big difference. The successful people take action now, and the wannabe successful people always have a reason why they can't take action now. And that's the biggest difference. The reason I coach with someone, the reason I have a coach, is because I know if I don't, then I will make all kinds of excuses for not taking action now, right? The dog got sick, or in this person's case, something's going on in their personal life, and they got to get all those things resolved. And here's my question to any live caller listening to the recording is, what excuses are you making for not taking action now? Because life is going to happen whether you take action or not. Life's going to happen. And you can either make excuses, you can either use those life challenges as a reason to take action, or you can use them as an excuse for not taking action. And the nice thing is the choice is yours. And so when I ran into this person this morning in a networking event, I basically just told her, I said, you know what? I'm going to tell you what a mentor of mine told me back in 1991, a guy named Jay Cuccia. And I was making all kinds of excuses for not doing the things I knew I should be doing. And he simply said to me, you know what, John? If you continue to argue for your limitations, you're going to get to keep them. And basically I told this person this, is like, hey, you know what? 2 months from now, there's going to be other challenges. 6 months from now, there's going to be other challenges. Hell, a year ago, there were challenges. That's called life. And if you're going to wait for all your ducks to get lined up in a nice 1, 2, 3 order, nothing's ever going to change for you. And so maybe there's somebody on the live call. I don't even know why I'm going off on this rant right now, because I feel there's somebody either on the live call or going to listen to the recording that needs to hear this. I know I need to hear it, because there are a lot of times where, guess what, man, life's tough. And crap happens. You know, it's like the bumper sticker. Shit happens, right? Life happens. And you can either make excuses and let it stand in your way, or you can plow through it and get to the other side, and the choice is yours. So, Grant, let me ask you a question. You said, okay, real-world examples of effective and ineffective coaching, and you got a picture of Vince Lombardi there and John Madden. What was the idea behind posting that picture and using these guys as examples? What were your thoughts there?
There's a story, and I'll keep this brief, John. It's related in the HBO documentary Lombardi that was done in 2010. And just real quick, a lot of people know that John Madden is a famous football broadcaster. And, in fact, he was a football broadcaster from 1980 through 2009. He's now retired. But some people, again, because they're younger, and I'm not hurling stones, I'm just filling in some blanks here, Madden is actually in the Pro Football Hall of Fame in Canton, Ohio, as a coach. Now, he coached the Oakland Raiders from 1968 through 1978, and he actually won the Super Bowl in 1977. But here's the story, and here's the reason these photos are in there. Madden in the mid-'60s, so we're going way back. Again, most of the people on this call may not have been born yet, weren't around, so back in the mid-'60s, Vince Lombardi was big stuff. He was coaching the Green Bay Packers. He won 5 championships in 9 years with the Packers. He was doing a football clinic. And Madden said, you know, I was coaching a junior college team. Junior college. He's just a young, up-and-coming football coach. And he said, I saved all the money I could, and I went to this clinic to see Lombardi. And he said the room was packed. He said, but, you know, I'm sitting in the back of the room, and Madden is almost shaking his head in disgust to relay this story and to admit that he was in the back of the room, and there was an entire day. Now get this. Lombardi goes 4 hours in the morning. There's a break, a middle of the day break, lunch, you know what I'm talking about. And then everybody comes back for another 4 hours that afternoon. And you know what Lombardi covered? Lombardi covered one play, the power sweep. And he talked about that one play for 8 hours. Now, Madden admitted, you know, I was a hotshot coach. I thought I knew everything. I'm sitting in the back of the room. He says it's like I'm sneaking into church, you know, after they had begun. You know, it's like he's laughing at himself. And Madden looks right at the camera, and he said, I'm the guy that should have been in the first row. Because he said, after I watched Vince Lombardi, the great Vince Lombardi, the guy that the Super Bowl trophy is named after, the Lombardi trophy. He said, after I watched him go over one play for 8 hours, I realized I didn't know anything. And so I think oftentimes what can occur for any of us, maybe it's because we're young, maybe it's because we're full of ourselves, John, whatever it may be, we think we have arrived and that we've got it down, we know what we're doing, but you and I both saw Les Brown in December of 2012, and let me tell you, the one quote that grabbed me in that entire day of being with Les Brown, he said, you know, what got you to where you are now, it won't get you to where you want to go. And that's what spoke to me that day, you know, when Les Brown was giving his talk in San Francisco. And I think that John Madden is able to now go back and reflect on that day that he got to see Vince Lombardi live in a room And even if he did miss his opportunity, he learned a lesson from that I'm sure he was able to pass on to other people. Listen, you're getting some good coaching here. Take it and run with it. Take it and put it into play in whatever it is that you're doing right now. Don't blow it off. And that's why I stuck the story in here today. Again, it's, I think, a great story about coaching and maybe as much as anything, being awake to the opportunities that are around us and grabbing them. Back to you, John.
No, I mean, you hit the nail on the head. It's like, practicing the right things. Very, very revealing. So there's a topic in here, actually a question that you put, and it says, what does hip-hop music reveal to you and I? And so what are your thoughts behind that question?
I'm not maybe you don't know me. I'm a 60-something. I don't follow hip-hop music. But I saw a presentation given by a presenter, a speaker, and what this gentleman was, his name was Dean Kasagi, and he was referring to a theory called the quantum leap. And I'll just do this real quickly. If you were going to draw a triangle, and if you put Dr. Dre at the top of that triangle, Dr. Dre created a company called Aftermath Entertainment, and he had a subsidiary of that conglomerate called Shady Records. And just remember that for a second. It'll come into play here. He did an album, he did a movie, and he did a clothing line. This is Dr. Dre. You may have heard him. He's the Beats, the headphones. He is the co-founder of that company, and they recently sold for big dollars to Apple. The long and the short of it is Dr. Dre, and this is back several years, he did an album, he did a movie, and he did a clothing line. I'm not trying to be redundant. I want to make sure you hear those three phrases, Dr. Dre. Then Dr. Dre got let's call him a protege. He got a student, and he mentored the student. The student's name was Eminem. Maybe you draw a second triangle and you put Eminem at the top of that. And guess what Eminem's success formula was? You already know the answer to this. He did an album, he did a movie, he did a clothing line. Oh, but he also added one additional step. He bought a radio station on the Sirius, SIRIUS network, which is, of course, is pay for play. It's a subscriber network on the radio. And guess what? This radio station played all the music of Dr. Dre and Eminem and all the other recording artists from Shady Records. Now, this is pretty brilliant. Now, Dr. Dre and Eminem, they got another protege. His name was 50 Cent. 50 Cent did, you know this already, what was his success formula? He did an album, he did a movie, he did a clothing line. Oh, and then he added one additional step. He came out with a vitamin water. And I know maybe you're going, vitamin water? What are you talking about, Grant? But it was extremely successful. So here's this example of the world of hip-hop, Dr. Dre, Eminem, 50 Cent, three names that even if you don't have a tremendous amount of knowledge about that world or that type of music, you may have heard these names. And what did they do? They did a 4-step program. And this is it. You may want to write this down. Get a coach. That was step 1. Step 2 was work a system. Step 3 was mastermind. Step 4 was build a wealth team. Now, you and I can look at that and we can go, wow, man, that's pretty amazing. Because each of the empires that we're talking about here, each of these triangles, whether it's Dr. Dre or whether it's Eminem or whether it's 50 Cent, these are multi-million-dollar recording artists. And how did they become so well known? They did an album, they did a movie, they did a clothing line, and then the example of Eminem buying a radio station or 50 Cent creating a vitamin water, they basically masterminded a formula, and they're learning on the job, and they're passing down all the lessons that they learned from each of those steps. Because let's face it, there were mistakes that were made, but they learned, and they passed that on to the rest of their tribe, their clan, their group, these companies that they were creating. So that's what I meant by that, John. I don't know if there's anything that resonates off that for you, but I was astounded when I heard about that example, and especially about the coaching.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, you point to a very important point in business, and that is once Dr. Dre discovered the system, right, the process and the system, all he did was he repeated it. And he successfully duplicated it through other proteges, okay? And so the number one key to building a successful business is systems. It's systems, and it's systems. And what makes a company valuable is its systems. And so a lot of entrepreneurs out there, a lot of solopreneurs, they pride themselves in the fact that they're in business for themselves, but at the end of the day, most of them don't have systems in place that can run that business without them. And so all that happens once the honeymoon period is gone, which is usually about 2 to 5 years, once the honeymoon of I'm now in business, I no longer have a boss, I am my own boss, and once that honeymoon period is over, you ultimately have to wake up and you go, okay, I basically own my own job. That's really what it comes down to. The only difference is, I don't have anybody telling me what to do, but, man, I can't take a day off. I can't go on vacation. I can't do anything. And it really comes down to the systems that you have in place. And so what I'll tell you from just personal experience is once you figure out a business model, once you make a commitment that you're going to succeed at it long term, because that's really the hardest part that I find in most businesses is making the commitment to succeed. I was talking to my coach, Mike Sastry, last Tuesday night. We were catching up, and we're just talking, and he was asking me, okay, how's your business going? And I was breaking it down for him. And I said, you know what? I've discovered over this last year and a half of doing this new business that I'm doing, the type of client that I'm looking for. And I said, I'm looking for a business owner that's got some skin in the game. And he said he's been a coach for building businesses for about almost 30 years. And I mean, he owns one of his companies is he owns 70% of the nightclub security in all of San Francisco.
Whoa!
So his company, yeah, that's a big deal, man. And one of the companies that he owns with a couple of partners, nightclubs in San Francisco hire them for their nightclub security, the bouncers and that sort of thing, right? And he's literally got 70% of the market in San Francisco. And so one of the things that we were talking about, because he also does, he has a whole accounting company and a tax company as well. And he says, what separates successful business owners from the also-rans is the commitment to see it through, the commitment to make it happen, the loyalty to themselves and their company to move it forward. And he says, because I was breaking down my clients and the clients that I've had and the clients that I've turned over, and we were talking about the clients that have been with me for, I got some clients that have been with me for over a year now. And the differences between the ones that stick and the ones that don't comes down to commitment. The ones that I'm still working with are very committed to their business. They're extremely committed to growing their business. They're in it for the long haul. It's not, some sort of passive thing, right? It's they understand that, there's going to be good times and there's going to be bad times. And those are the types of clients that will succeed long term. And so if you're in business, understand that it's more than just an idea. It's more than just selling a product or a service. There's so many different moving parts as you build your company that it will take literally 2 to 5 years to put everything in place. And so it always shocks me when, and it's not just me, it's in my industry as a whole. Somebody will hire somebody as a coach and work with them for 3 to 6 months and go, okay, I think I've got everything I need. I'm going to kind of run with it on my own. And what they don't understand is that's the kiss of death, right? It's the kiss of death because what happens is we're human beings first. And when we say, hey, I've got it, I'm going to run with it now, all that happens is I don't want to be accountable anymore. I'm going to try to run on my own and get there, and then what ends up happening is they end up going backwards. And so having systems in place takes a lot of time to build, takes a lot of time to develop, and Dr. Dre hit the nail on the head is you have to have a team of people around you in order to be successful. Those that are the most successful surround themselves with lots of successful people. Grant Cardone is listening to a Periscope. He did a live broadcast via Periscope over the weekend. Periscope is a new company that Twitter bought, and it allows you to do live broadcasting. And one of the things that somebody asked a question, they said, okay, what do you attribute your success to? Grant Cardone owns 4 different companies that are currently valued over, I think it's, so the current value right now is what he said is over $450 million. And one of the things that he said is, you know what, I surround myself with people that are better than me. I am constantly working and looking for people that stretch me. And wow. I'm constantly working my ass off. He says, wow. I work all day long. I show up every single day, and I hit it hard. And he says, because you know what? Most people talk about integrity, but most people don't have integrity. And he says wow. He's not talking about cash register ethics there. He's talking about people that have a God-given talent or gift that they know what they should be doing to succeed, and yet they don't do it. And wow. He says, people value integrity and they claim to have integrity, but yet they don't show up every day and play to their full potential. He says, how wow. can you be a person of integrity when you're robbing the world of what you have to offer? You're basically robbing your family by not showing up every day and giving it your all. Because if you did show up every day and give it your all, how much more blessed would the world be? How much more blessed would your family be? How much more blessed would your life be? I mean, they hit me like a ton of bricks, man. I was sitting there going, that son of a, he's talking about me, and so here's the point of me sharing the story. Being on a call like this, being on multiple calls a week like this is valuable. Where else, had I not been on that Periscope call that he did for, I think it was like 10 minutes on Saturday, I would have missed it. I would have missed that one line that he said in there that really made a difference for me, you know. And by you being on the live call or listening to this recording, there may be something I might share, something Grant might share, that it might be just the one thing that you needed to hear. And so, do you have any thoughts about what I just said, Mr. Grant Perry?
You know, the story that came up for me when you were talking about, you know, Grant Cardone just then and getting great people around him, brief story. We all think of Steve Jobs as just being, you know, a genius and having a lot of insight into how he built Apple. The reason I'm telling this story right here is that in the early 2000s, there were no Apple retail stores. Now, I realize that everybody on this call or on this recording that's listening to this, they may not even be able to remember back when there were no Apple retail stores. But one of the things that Jobs knew he didn't know anything about was a retail outlet. So what did he do? He got Mickey Drexler, Drexler, who was the big mucky muck, the CEO of Gap, GAP stores. He brought him onto the board of Apple. In other words, he got a guy from the outside to come in and be his coach. Think about this. And the very first question that, you know, Jobs started running past Drexler about how are we going to do these retail shops, Drexler gave him the insight, the answer. He said, well, whatever you do, don't open 20 or 30 of these shops across the country and just expect them to fly. That won't work. I've already done that, and I found out that that doesn't work. Here's what you want to do. And Drexler gave Jobs a system. He gave him a formula. He gave him, this is how you go about it. He said, I want you to get some cheap warehouse space, and you're just going to create a prototype. It's not even a real store. This is like a mock-up, hey, we're going to do some rehearsal, and this will be our stage set. And they put it together in this cheap warehouse space, and guess what? The first couple of trials, they failed. They didn't work. But by and large, they honed it, and then when they actually launched their first 2 Apple retail stores, one was in Virginia, one was in L.A., they were wildly successful. Now, I don't know about your experience in the world, but when I walk past an Apple retail store, I always think they're giving away gold coins. The stores are packed. They're doing classes. People are coming in to buy new product lines. People want to figure out how to utilize a new application. It's just a throng of people, and they have them, you know, they have all of these. I'm not hurling stones here. I'm not calling anybody names. They have these young, kind of, and I mean it's a compliment, kind of geeky kids that run the store, and then they have a couple of older, maybe we'll call them floor managers or what have you. The long and the short of it is you get taken care of. The people that work there are having fun, and the only thing I would tell you is that didn't just happen by accident. That happened because of coaching. Steve Jobs being smart enough to bring Mickey Drexler into his company and say, how do we do this? And basically admitting that he didn't know how to do it. And he wanted some ideas. He wanted a system. He wanted a mastermind. He actually wanted a coach. So, John, I'll throw it back to you.
So, okay, so let's talk about our next topic. First of all, before we move on, is there anybody on the live call that has a question, a comment about what we're talking about? *6 will bring you live on the call. Going once, going twice, and let's move on. Okay, so there's another one in here, another question that you have in here. It says, what type of attitudes may be hardwired in our psyches? So what do you want to talk about with this question? What's your point with this question?
I'm picking on men. The male psyche, and this is just, again, my years of now being in specifically coaching, my years of being in business, John, and the majority of the people that I supervised during this period of time were men. And I'll just keep this brief. Women for years have been able to laugh about all the jokes about guys not stopping for directions, but not knowing where they're going and getting lost. I've heard these stories. It's urban legend, but it's all true. If it wasn't for GPS now, guys would still be getting lost at just as fast a rate as they were 20 or 30 years ago before GPS came along. It's part of the hard wiring that I think that kind of goes into our heads. What's that all about? Maybe it goes back to John Wayne. Maybe it goes back to Clint Eastwood, the loner, the strong type, the I'll get it done on my own, I don't need any assistance type of mentality that could easily, be part of, just the culture you grew up in, because it's out there. But when you hear men talk about topics such as they've got a situation with one of their children, they may be hesitant to go to a therapist, a psychologist, marriage counseling. It's usually almost a last resort. I mean, hey, why would you go do that? That's like a sign of weakness. The great Jim Henson, the puppeteer, the Muppets creator, and he died of just common pneumonia, but he didn't go to the doctor until he was in the throes of the last stages of this disease, and they were not able to save him. Now, I don't mean to be picking on Jim Henson here, but I'm just saying, guys are not known for reaching out and asking for a helping hand. And I see this on a continuous basis, even now today. It takes some courage to ask for some help. It takes a bit of self-esteem and a posture that for some people it's a little harder to come by. I don't mean to sound condescending. I'm not slamming anybody by this. I'm just stating the obvious. For a lot of people, asking for a coach is to them some sort of that's a sign of weakness. I can do it on my own. And I see people who are continuing to struggle, continuing to miss the mark, but they are absolutely bound and determined that they're going to find out the right combination without anybody else's help. So that's what I meant by that comment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, we grow up when we're first born, right? We got the ultimate clean slate, right? I mean, the world hasn't gotten a hold of us. We don't know any type of fear. We got a natural curiosity about us. We're happy. And then all of a sudden over the years, society gets a hold of us. We get told no. We get disappointments, get made fun of. I mean, life experiences happen. And certain things get hardwired into our psyches. And some of it can be good, and some of it can be bad. Our brain is designed to protect us, right? And so I was watching a video over the weekend, and one of the things that the video was pointing out is, that if you've ever eaten, some bad food, right? If you've ever eaten, had a bad experience with food, maybe you ate some tainted food and you got really, really sick. Well, years later, it could be 5, 10 years later, if somebody brings around some food and it's served to you and it smells just like the food that you ate 10 years earlier that got you sick, what's interesting is how our brain works is our brain goes, no, don't eat that. And we don't even know why. It's just, nah, I don't want that, right? And our brains are very, very powerful. It does not know the difference between good and bad. It doesn't know the difference between what we want and what we don't want. It doesn't know the difference between a truth or a lie. It will do whatever we program it to do. And the good news is this. We can reprogram certain habits into our lives to make us more productive. One of the books out there was published in 1933. It's a book called Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. And what he talks about in that book is a technique called autosuggestion. And what it means is saying something to yourself over and over and over and over again until it becomes a part of you. And so just because you have certain behaviors doesn't mean that that's how it has to be long term. See, there are things that you know, whether you're on the live call or listening to the recording, there are self-limiting behaviors that you know are standing in your way. And you can either make a decision to change them, or you can continue to try to exercise, quote-unquote, willpower and not change them. And my advice to you would be this. Go get the book, Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. Find somebody that you can coach and mentor with that can hold you accountable, and get to work. You only have one life to live. You only have one life to live, and tomorrow it's not what life is happening right now, and it's not a dress rehearsal for when the real thing shows up. It's live right now. I was talking to my buddy Jeff Stewart, Jim Canaris, last week. And, me and you, Grant, and John Kramer formed a company recently called 10x Consulting Group, LLC. It's a Nevada corporation, right? And so as business partners, we're going to put together a buy-sell agreement, and we'll have buy-sell agreements on all partners. Well, in business, there's an insurance out there called buy-sell insurance. And what it means is each one of us will have insurance on ourselves to cover that buy-sell agreement. So if something were to happen, to one of us through death or whatever, the buy-sell insurance will actually pay out to the beneficiaries the monies that need to get paid out versus it coming out of the company. This is very common in the business world. And so I called up my buddy Jim Canaris because he's the guy that I've always gotten my buy-sell insurance from. And we were talking about it. He's like, oh, yeah, no, you need to get that done very, very soon because you just don't know what's going to happen. I go, what are you talking about? He goes, I just did buy-sell insurance for 2 business partners, and it was going through underwriting. And before I can get the underwriting got approved, but before I can get the policies out to the business owners, one of them had a major heart attack and almost died. And I'm like, whoa. He goes, yeah. He goes, what's even the more shocker is this dude was 33 years old. Never smoked a day in his life. 33 years old. So why am I even sharing this story? Here's the deal. If you're on a live call or you're listening to the recording, if you're a female, I want you to go and get your purse. Okay? If you're a man, I want you to go and get your wallet. And I'm going to give you 30 seconds to pull out the card, the card that says that you're going to be living tomorrow. Okay, I'll give everybody 30 seconds to go and get that card that guarantees that you're going to be living tomorrow. I have yet been able to find one. I've searched around. I'll pay millions of dollars if I can find one. But here's the point. None of us know. None of us know when our time is up. It could be today. It could be tomorrow. It could be next week. It could be 20 years from now. Here's the point. What are you waiting for? You only have one life to live. And you know what? Too many people are operating out of fear. They don't want to offend anybody, or they're operating from a standpoint that, I don't want to offend somebody, or maybe I can't do this, or maybe tomorrow, or they keep putting it off. Meanwhile, somebody else is kicking their butt in the market. And here's the point. Nobody's thinking about you anyways. It's like I heard somebody say in a quote about a month ago, and it's one of my new favorite quotes, and it says, between ages 20 up until about 40 years old, we're concerned about what other people think of us. And then between ages 40 and around 60 to 65 years old, we realize we don't really care what anybody thinks. You know? And then what's funny is right around 60 to 65 years old, we wake up and we realize, you know what, nobody's been thinking about us this entire time.
That's the
and
truth.
we spend our entire lives worried about what other people are going to think, worried about pleasing other people, worrying about, all the stuff that may or may not come true, and we put our entire lives on hold because we're waiting for the right time, right?
Yeah.
And just like the lady I shared earlier about, this person's waiting for all the ducks to be lined up in a nice 1, 2, 3 order before she's going to go build her business. And I told her,
that'll never happen.
Whether you sign up with me as your coach right now or not isn't going to make a difference in my life at all. It won't make a bit of difference at all. It'll make a huge difference in your life. But you know what? 3 months from now, when you think the timing's going to be right, it ain't going to be right because life is going to happen. And so the big message, the big takeaway from today's call is simply this. Get off your ass and take action. And I'm being a little strong on today's call because, you know what? I had a little pity party yesterday morning, right? I had about a 3-hour span of time where I literally was fit to be tied. Nothing was working. Nothing was right. Didn't want to talk to my wife. I was just sitting in my crap. And I didn't want to talk to nobody. I was pouting. It was disgusting, man. But I was in that funk. I could not for the life of me get out of it. And my wife even said, you know what? I'll tell you what, we'll go to church and, we'll come home and Preston and I will drop you off so you can have your little pity party by yourself, and we're going to go out and go to the park and have a good day. Okay? But you got to get your head out of your ass today. This is how my wife was talking today, right? And so went to church, and I sat in the very back row, and I had my arms crossed, and I didn't want to sing. I didn't want to do anything, right? And the sermon was over. I went out and I sat in the lobby and waited for everybody to come out. And what's funny is the pastor was out there to greet everybody, and I know him personally, and he's a good friend of mine. And he comes up and he says, how's it going, man? And I just said, I'll be quite honest with you. I am in a crappy freaking space right now. I am like in a real bad, dark place right now, and I can't seem to get out of it. And he prayed for me real quick, and by the time I got home, I just realized, you know what? It's okay to have a bad hour. It's okay to even have a bad day. Just don't let it turn into a week, Just don't let it turn into a month. And the thing is I'm very fortunate that I've set up my life in such a way to where I surround myself with people that care, people that will ask me the questions, and people that can help me get out of that funk, because we're all human. We're all human. And so maybe you're on the live call or you're listening to the recording, and this message is just perfect for you. Here's the point. Today is the first day of the rest of your life. You literally can start today. You can start right now. And you say, okay, you know what? My best has gotten me to this point, and if I don't change something, nothing's going to change. And so here's your homework. Go out and find a mentor. Go out and find a coach. Go and talk to them and ask them to help you. Surround yourself with positive, uplifting people that can help you. Eliminate the negative people out of your life. Turn off the TV, radio. Turn off the TV, turn off the radio. Eliminate all influx of news and media and all that stuff. Just try this for a week, and watch how much better you're going to feel mentally. Watch how much more energy you're going to have physically. Surround yourself with positive, uplifting people, and just watch how you're going to feel by doing this for one solid week. And you know what? If it doesn't work for you, you can always go back to the way it was. And so the choice is yours. So, Grant, we got about 9 minutes left. Let's take a look here. Is it possible to possess a blind spot? Yeah, I think it's very possible to possess a blind spot, but share with us what your thoughts are on this question.
I'm going to use a movie analogy as a metaphor here just to answer that and to wrap it up. I think this is a great example. I could throw this out, John, and, somebody in the audience or somebody I'm talking to could go, yeah, but Grant, that's just a movie. Come on. And the movie I'm thinking about is The Karate Kid. And bottom line, Daniel never realized that, he had a coach and he had somebody that was basically putting him through training. He just didn't get it. I mean, we all remember what happened in the movie, wax on, wax off, getting the cars clean, paint the fence, the exaggerated stroke with the paintbrush, sand the floor. And Daniel gets so mad at Mr. Miyagi that he just explodes. He thinks that somebody's taken advantage of him. He didn't get it that somebody was actually taking the time to train him, to teach him, to show him the ropes. But then once he was forced to take his work, take his practice, and put it into a game situation, then it clicked. Then he actually saw what was taking place. In other words, he had a blind spot. It's called a scotoma. It's in a medical term, it's just, a permanent or a temporary area of absent vision. But in psychology, it's a mental blind spot. It's an inability to understand or perceive, certain matters. You just can't, you don't see it. You don't get it. Now, we're going to cut Daniel some slack because he was basically being raised by a single mom. We don't see a dad in the movie. And what happens is this gentleman, this old war veteran, Mr. Miyagi, he takes pity on the kid, sees him being picked on and bullied, and he tries to help him out. So I'm going to shut it down right there, John. We're coming to the end of the call, and I don't know if that opens up anything else for discussion, but that's where I was going with that last remark.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of times the personal growth that we're experiencing we don't see right away, And, you probably have witnessed this, the last 44 years that you've dealt with salespeople and you've built businesses is, you see some salespeople, they will go out and they'll do it, man. They'll rock it for a week, 2 weeks, right? But they don't get results, and then what ends up happening is they back off and they quit, and they reset, and what ends up happening is they never really gain any amount of success. And you see it happen all the time in sales and in business. And that is, people approach a business with an employee mentality, meaning that they approach their business just like they would approach a job, and that is on a job, you show up, you got a guaranteed paycheck, if you show up, you do the work, you're going to get paid, right? And whether you do the work 100% or you do it 50%, okay? Now, you're going to get paid. And truth be told, they've done, massive amounts of Harvard studies and national studies, and an employer pays an employee for 40 hours of work, but in reality, they only get about 20 to 24 hours of actual work, right? The rest of it is distractions, being interrupted, procrastination, extended breaks, sometimes, sitting there. I mean, truth be told, most employees only work about 20 to 24 hours of actual work, but they get paid for 40 hours. And what happens is, a lot of times, new business owners, new entrepreneurs, if you will, okay, will start a business, and they try to apply the same work ethic to their business, and then they wonder why they can't succeed, or they wonder why they fail. And you see this all the time. And what happens is you gotta turn it on, right? You gotta find a reason. Harvey Mackay once said, "Find your reason before your reason finds you. Dig your well before you're thirsty." And if you're in a business, or you own a business, or you're in sales, and you don't hit it hard every single day, guess what? You're not going to hit your goals. It's as simple as that. You're not going to hit your goals. You might as well quit and go get a job where you can slack off and get paid anyways. Because as a business owner, I already know, any employees I ever hire, I already know I'm going to pay for 40 hours to get about 20 to 24 hours of actual work. And I already know it. And you know what? It's totally fine. And you know what? Not everybody needs to be a business owner. Not everybody needs to be in sales, because otherwise I wouldn't have anybody to do the things that I don't want to do, right? But if you want to succeed in business, here's the harsh reality. It's up to you, man. It's up to you. You're going to have to make it happen. And the only way I know to be consistent, the best advice I can tell people is, find a mentor, find a coach, and commit. Commit long-term with that person to succeed. Don't just commit for 3 or 4 months and then go, hey, I got it. Bullshit. Commit long-term that you're going to play at a high level, because if you are playing at a high level and you are actually doing the work, you're going to create more problems every single day. If you're not creating enough problems, you're not taking enough action. And so I'm going to shut it down with that, and that is, don't just take what we talked about on today's call and sweep it under the rug. I hope this call pissed some of you off. I hope it got under your skin. I hope it forces you to take action, because you know what? You only have one life to live. You really do. You only have one life to live. This world needs to know about you. You have an incredible gift and talent to offer other people, and you have an incredible opportunity to make a difference in other people's lives. And I would recommend you just draw a line in the sand. You say, okay, from this door, John is absolutely right. I'm going to go out and make it happen. And go out and make it happen. And share with us. Share with us that if you got something out of this call, share it in the Facebook group. Okay? Grant, thanks so much for being on the live call, buddy. Really appreciate it. Thanks for being my co-host today. And I got a lot out of it, man. Hey, thanks a lot for the topic and putting it together. Really appreciate it.
No problem at all. Thanks, John. Appreciate you having me.
Talk to you soon. All right. Take care. Bye-bye.
Take care.